It's time, it's mandatory, we gotta do it. Best albums of the year so far, the best albums of 2022, let's go. Before we get on to that though, just wanted to promote my Patreon, just in case you weren't already aware, there is a Patreon that you can support me on. The link is in the description. You can get all kinds of things like early access to videos, a Discord server that you can join as well. It would be fantastic seeing more people in there. There's only about 12 at the moment in there. We have some good conversations about music, it's fun, and would love to see more people in it. So if you would like to access that and many other things that you can see on the tier list on my Patreon, please go check it out. Would greatly appreciate the support on there. Would love you if you could just even donate $1 a month. That would be wonderful. But yeah, 2022, contrary to what people have said so far, I've seen quite a few people saying this isn't a good year for music. We've definitely hit a bit of a quiet period in the past month or so, but I actually think we've had some fantastic music so far this year, and there's even more wonderful music on the way. As we should all know by now, the second half of the year is way more stacked than the first half of the year in the music world. It just is that way. So if you're thinking this isn't a good year so far for music, well, dig deep. Perhaps there's some recommendations I can offer you in this video as well that you haven't heard already, and you might be changing your mind on music of 2022. But yeah, to start off with, I want to mention gospel. I want to start with an album of a genre that I don't actually touch on as much as I should. I mean, it's not really metal, but it is in the metal sphere, the metal category. It's more like post-hardcore stuff, and I just kind of want to highlight it because I do not touch on this kind of music as much as I should on this channel, nowhere near enough. But gospel, I mean, what a comeback. How can you go like 17 years without any albums or anything and just still sound like, you know, you just were all together yesterday making music? You know, 2005 was not 17 years ago, it was literally yesterday. I love stuff like this where bands can just maintain it over a long period of time, and it's fantastic. It's a fantastic album, and they are proving to be pretty consistent because they've only got 2 albums and both are pretty good. So yeah, well done to them. Everything easily have one of the best albums of the year for me so far too. This is like their 6th album to date, which is kind of weird because they still in my mind feel like a relatively new band with only a couple of albums. I don't know why my mind does that though, but yeah, that's just how I seem to think of them. But no, they've been around for God knows how long now, and amongst all of their albums, this to me is in their top 2. I think this is fantastic. I think the clever, bizarre approach to the lyrics with the AI stuff that they had thrown in just made for such an entertaining listen with so many of these tracks, bringing back that wackiness that was there, ever present, omnipresent on Get to Heaven. And this, it goes up there with that album for me. This is fantastic. There's some really potent moments emotionally as well, like towards the back end of the album, and then in the middle you've got Leviathan and the wonderful Jennifer. Like, this album just has so much to offer. It's got the funk, it's got the rhythms, it's got the grooves, but it's got the heart to it as well. And also Pizza Boy's on here. That's just in its own world. But I also mentioned Punimo, one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, a Finnish soul band, and a classic soul band at that, putting out some of the funkiest soul music you'll hear all year. That is just so lively and energetic, and it is just so enjoyable. It's so hard to say no to. They just nail this sound to a T. It doesn't sound like a complete homage, which sometimes albums like this can. They sound modern, they sound fresh, and I just can't believe there is a scene for this music. There is a scene of this kind of thing in Finland. Like, it's just so out of nowhere, and I love that. It is so good. It's just such an enjoyable album. I want to mention Let's Eat Grandma next, with their really wonderfully produced, immaculately produced album, which follows up I'm All Ears, which was a 2018 album. They've let quite a few years pass now, and I think they've just matured really nicely. I think they've lost a bit of the edge that was coming through on that album. There was some really creative and quirky ideas on that album, whereas this one feels a bit more streamlined, and there isn't quite as much of that you know, creativity coming through, but it's no detriment to the music. It sounds so star-studded and glossy, and it just has such a pristineness to it that I think is really, really wonderful on the ears, and is one of the best albums I've heard all year so far. To pair that up with another album that I wasn't quite anticipating to love as much as I did, has got to be Jack White's album. This is fantastic, and it's going to go down as one of the biggest highlights for rock music in the year of 2022. And god damn, he just let loose on this. He let loose with these instrumentals. They are raging, they are stomping, and he got a Q-tip feature as well. Like, how did he even think to do that? How does it work as much as it does? I don't know. But goddamn, that track is so fun. Haddy ho, oh man. And god, this album is fantastic. And yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't expecting it. I know what he's got. You know, the White Stripes were great. He's got it in him to put out music as good as this. And I just wasn't really expecting to love it, because I didn't think his last album was that particularly that good. I don't know. He just blew me away with this one. And he's got another one coming soon. I think about, from recording this video, it's out in like 10 days-ish. It's mad. Gotta mention my boy Vale Smith, who is an electronic producer who just seems to be stepping it up with every release. Like, I thought his 2020 album was really good, and I still like that album a lot. And yet it feels like this album is an improvement on that one. And yet it feels like he's constantly progressing and constantly shifting his sound and just making it more exciting every time he does it. And I'm impressed. Honestly, one of the better electronic artists out there at the moment. And I don't just say that about anyone, not just because he's my friend, but truly he is that good. And tracks like Setting Sun are just fantastic. They're just so good. And it's so great to hear him progress and improve as time goes on. But all of his music is worthwhile. And he's talking about making more dancey music too. Do you want to get me dancing? He's going to want to get me dancing. He's going to try and get me dancing. I'm going to love that shit. I love the dance, man. One of the better hip-hop albums for me this year. I haven't really been raving about much hip-hop, actually. But Redveil's album, I thought was brilliant. And the guy's still really young. And it's crazy to me that he's already putting out music that I consider this good, when I don't even think he's, like, hit the age of 19 yet. I don't know how old he is. He might be about 18, 19, 20, around that range. I don't know exactly. But God, he's penning some really, really fantastic songs. I think lyrically there's ways to improve for him. But just in terms of his hook game, the beat selections, it's an improvement from his first album, his previous album. And just at such a young age, he's one of the most promising rappers around at the moment for me. And to be having him on such a list like this, amongst all the other rappers that have put out hip-hop albums this year, I think is a huge achievement for someone so young. But even regardless of his age, I just think he's putting out some really great music, and both of his albums so far have been absolutely worthwhile. And I think this one was just a slight improvement and is going to go down for me as one of the best rap albums of the year. A few more to get through now. I want to mention Feiertag, who is an electronic producer putting out some of the best house music of the year. Also, not to forget the Tourist album that came out this year. Not quite mentioning it in this 10 albums here, but both really took me back. And this one right here, the Nicholas Jar influence coming through, the Fortet influence coming through, is just so great. It's so good, and the man knows how to get you moving with these house bangers. Seriously, probably the most underappreciated album of the year, possibly even the most underappreciated album on this entire list so far. It is fantastic, and it just is added to the list of great house music that I just absolutely live for. FKA Twigs next, with her most accessible mainstream album sounding thing to date. It's a mixtape technically. I've already called it the wrong thing, but yeah, the way she's just kind of incorporated so much of like the the cultural landscape of what British music has been for the past few years. It's taking influence from other cultures and bringing it to the UK, and I think she's done that just seamlessly, and it's part of some of the best pop music of the year, like truly some of the best pop music of the year, undisputably for me. And while her other albums are certainly more creative, experimental, any other kind of word you want to throw at it than this one, I think personally this is my favourite because I just think it's so replayable. And those other albums are really good, by the way. I'm not trying to downplay it. Any of her albums, I'm not downplaying any at all. But just how good she is at this. Like how good she is at this. How good she is at other things too. Like I think she could go down as one of the more versatile artists of our time if she makes a new album again and switches things up, because she is proving that she can do so many different things and so much of it is done well. So yeah, FKA Twigs, man, shout out to her. She put out such a fantastic album here. And finishing off with another genre of music that I should probably review more than I do. We started with one of those, we're ending with one of those. Orville, Peck, Bronco, a alt country album that I really like. I just really like it. I wasn't expecting it because I didn't really think his first one was that good, but I think he's transformed his sound. He's become a bit more like of an outlaw kind of character. He sounds a bit menacing at times on this album, honestly. I mean, look at the cover. This guy looks like a badass that you don't want to mess with. And he is living to that character even more, I think, this time around, with some fantastic tunes, fantastic vocal performances. I really like the rock-edged tracks on this one too. I think when he ramps it up, he puts out a good rager. But then he slows it down towards the end of the album with a more like ballad sort of territory, which I think he does well too. Yeah, Orville, Peck, man, another artist on this list that surprised me this year. There's so many of them. So many of my favourite albums of the year so far have been surprises. And hopefully it surprised you too. And hopefully you got a lot out of this music. And hopefully as well, if you don't know some of these albums, you got a recommendation from this as well. Because hopefully that is what I am here to do for you. And that is it. That is my 10 for the year so far. I never order them. I never give you a hint as to what the album of the year is. I like to edge you. I like to keep you waiting. I like to tease you until the end of the year where I put out a proper ordered ranked list. But for now, these are my 10 favourites. It's going to change drastically, I'm sure, by the time we get to December. Because like I say, the second half of the year brings out so much wonderful music every goddamn time. People just got to be patient. You got to wait. You got to wait. Like that September, October, November period. Oh my God. It hits hard, man. There's so much music that comes thick and fast. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the rest of the year. Tell me your favourite albums of the year so far too. Thank you for watching as always. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Patreon like I already said. Have a good day and goodbye.